can work anywhere.
Oh, okay.
There you go, Kyle.
That's funny.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. And we're excited to kick off our MACU series with human resources. This is such a great contribution to small businesses because we don't always get to have this resource inside our business. So bringing in consultant and helping us is going to be great. So today I have with us Joanna Walters. She comes all the way from Richmond, but we're excited to have her. I'm going to kick it over to her really right away, and she can tell you a little more about herself and her business. And then there's going to be plenty of time for Q&A today. So we're looking forward to it. If you do have questions, jot them down, ask her as she goes. She'll manage all of that. But this is the cream of the crop right here.
Yes.
From Montgomery, business making it happen. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming. My name is Joanna Walters, and I own my HR Help. My HR Help is a consulting business, HR consulting business that caters to small and mid-sized companies, basically helping you be compliant with your HR needs. Most times companies, especially when they start out, feel like, oh, I don't need HR, I know a little bit, I can go online, I can find information, but it's not that easy. There's still things, a company that has 2 people, 5 people, 15 people, once you hit 15, 20, there are regulations, laws that we all must follow. And it's best to be prepared for it and than wait till something happen and then you have to pay fines and you have fees because you weren't compliant from the beginning. But before I go into all that, I want to tell you a little bit about me and how I got started out. I started in oil and gas with Conoco about 20 years ago. I worked in their expatriate services department, and from there I went on to other positions as generalist in recruiting. Then I moved from Conoco to BP. There I was handling expat from Russia all over the world as well. From there I went to MX Energy, which was an electrical retail company, kind of like the TXUs, the Reliant companies. And then from there I went and became manager at an international company called Omicron. And I was responsible for the Americas and Latin America, so I traveled a lot to Hong Kong, to all different regions. And from there, I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to venture out on my own and start my own, because all the knowledge that I got from policies and procedures, employee relations, and I felt that I could start my own business and help other people, especially small businesses, become compliant on HR issues. This is not me talking all the time. If you guys have any questions as I go along, anything that you don't understand, please feel free to ask whenever you want. As I said at the beginning, our purpose is for small businesses and medium-sized businesses to remain compliant. There are laws, there are rules and regulations that we all as business owners, no matter if it's one person business to 100,000 people business, there are laws, rules, and regulations that we all must follow. If we don't, there are fines. And one of the things that we are clear about is that there's an average of 490,000. Oh, sorry, forgot the presentation. They increased 400% since 20 years ago. Why? Can anybody think about, especially 10 years ago, can anybody tell me around 2009, 2010, does anybody remember what happened back in 2009, 2010? Recession,
Yeah.
right? And what happened during the recession? A lot of layoffs,
Yeah.
right? So that's where employees, I got laid off. You know what? I remember 2 years ago when my manager did this to me.
Right.
I'm going to go sue.
Right.
I remember I never got paid for overtime. So that's when it started, and people started becoming educated with the laws and what I'm supposed to get as an employee, what the employer is supposed to offer me as an employee. So that's where we started seeing a lot of these fines, and sometimes even employers would go to jail. I know you guys have heard of companies that were hiring illegal immigrants, and they had most of their payroll were illegal immigrants, and they ended up in prison because they knew they weren't supposed to hire people that didn't have social security numbers and all that. So it's very important that we remain compliant no matter the size of the organization. You got it? So what we offer as a company is HR consulting in every area of HR, from recruiting to employee relations, to onboarding. Some of you are starting companies right now where you are hiring new employees. You need to do background checks. You need to interview. You need to have that HR experience to know who you need to hire, when do you need to hire, why you need to hire that person. Because you might hire 2 or 3 people and say, well, I don't need this person right now. Well, you might need this particular person. That's where you need an HR consultant to give you that advice, to give you that push, so you know that you're doing everything that you're supposed to do. Again, we cover recruiting, we cover onboarding, employee relations, employee handbooks. One thing that's very important, most companies, oh, no, we're a family. I hear it all the time. We're a family until something happens, right? We're all friends, we're all good, but if something happens where you have to lay off, or you have to let someone go because of something that they did, then everybody forgets and, oh, I remember when, you know? So all those things we try to help employers. Employee handbooks are very, very important. Okay, go ahead. So with us, you have instant access to an HR consultant. We have programs for small and mid-sized companies where if your budget is small and you may just have HR questions. Hey, I have an employee here that hasn't shown up in 3 days. Can I let him go? Hey, there's an employee here that just cussed me out. What do I do? Or there's an employee that they're just fighting. What do I, all these questions that sometimes owners or managers are not very comfortable in handling. Pick up the phone and you can give us a call. And we can give you assistance and help in those areas. So how do we start the HR process? There are steps in order to set up small businesses or mid-sized companies. Every company has their own setup, but this is kind of the standard for setting up an HR business. So what we normally start out is we begin with meeting with the client. We meet with the client, learn about the organization, learn about the company, what their future goals are, how many employees they currently have. Based on that information, then we do an assessment of what they are doing right now as far as their HR processes. How do you hire your employees? Do you have an HR department? If you don't, how do you do payroll? If you have an issue with an employee, how do you handle different questions to make sure that if the process is not set up, we are there to help set it up. If it's already set up, we look at it and say, okay, yeah, you're doing well, and we can move forward. Once we do that, we use our tools then, if you're lacking in certain areas, to put together a training, perhaps a training plan, or to come in and talk to the manager or those employees that you assign to us and explain what the process will be for setting up your HR organization. Okay. The phase 2 is the compliance part, and it typically is about a 3 to 9 months. Again, it depends on the organization and how far, or if they have their HR department set up or in process. Once the action plan is in place and the employer or the owner has agreed, then we put a schedule of meetings where we come in and we start giving you the tools and explain, okay, onboarding. We set up an onboarding schedule or an onboarding program. This is what you would use anytime you're hiring someone. Questions that you may ask in the interview, questions that you shouldn't be asking in the interview. Who does the interviews? We give you a very concise step-by-step process on the onboarding, what you need to do from A through Z. Then we train each person that you want us to train in it. If you have an administrator, if you have the administrative assistant, the office manager, whoever you want us to train in order to make sure that the process is followed in its entirety. The areas that we focus in, as I mentioned before, employee handbook, wage and hour. If you don't know how much to pay your employees, because they'll come up with all types of I'm supposed to be making $20 an hour, or the person down the street makes this, and so you want to remain competitive. If you want actual and factual information, we provide that for you as well. If you're saying, yeah, but down the street they're paying $20 an hour, and then when we get information and say, no, the average salary is $15 an hour. If you want to remain competitive, you may pay $16 an hour, but 20 is way, way above. So that even if that employee decides not to take the job, you know you were being fair. And again, being consistent. If you have employees that are Mexicans or Peruvians or from the north, everybody's getting paid what they're supposed to be paid based on living in Montgomery, Texas, and not New York or anywhere else. Benefits administration. Some of you are small, may not have the budget to start out, let's say, for 1K plans or medical plans, but there's still other benefits that you may offer where it's not a cost to you as an employer. For example, voluntary dental and vision plans. You may not be able to offer medical plans because by law, you as the employer have to pay certain costs of the medical plan. But you can say to your employees, hey, we're not in a position to provide medical insurance right now, but we can offer you voluntary dental and benefits where you guys pay the cost of that. Dental is $30 for employee only, up to probably $100 for employee plus family. So that's something that they could probably handle on their own. Some companies offer pet insurance, all those things that people like. So you can offer those things, and then it shows, hey, at least I don't get the makeup, but I still get competitive rates in these other areas. Employee relations. Again, you might have issues with certain employees. They may not be getting along. There might be issues between the manager and the employee. You don't know how to handle that. We will help you. We will give you a step-by-step process on how to deal with certain employees, how to talk to employees, what to say, what not to say. Because again, everybody's listening nowadays, and there are certain things you don't want to say to employees. For example, I don't know if you guys know, you can't tell an employee, Forrest, when are you retiring? He can go to take some work from him and say, they fire me, because I'm old. Not that he's old, but let's say he was 65, that could be considered discrimination, and he could sue the company for that. And it was just a simple question you were asking, you weren't trying to be nosy or anything. You were like, hey, so when are you going to retire? So again, remember, we're friends today, tomorrow, I don't know. He can go complain about that. Someone that's pregnant, are you going to take leave? When are you leaving to take? You can't even ask those questions, and a lot of people don't know that. And you're just having a conversation with someone, and you didn't realize that, hey, this is something that I wasn't supposed to say because now this person took it as me trying to get them out the door. So all those, we help with those. The new hire and onboarding, again, a process, background checks, they go do a drug test, then they start, you give them an offer letter, all those to help you with that. So you have a file with that employee, so if anything happens later on where they want to sue, you can sure know you went through background checks, you did this, everything in order so you don't have to worry about those things later because everything is on file in the system, you don't have to worry about it, okay? And then job descriptions, very important. Most companies don't have job descriptions. This is what saves a lot of companies. The last company I worked for did not have job descriptions when I started. So whenever we ask someone to do something, well, that wasn't in my job description. They love saying that wasn't in my. And we didn't have any job descriptions because no one ever gave them one. So I came in, I did job descriptions for all the positions, and then I always had that little disclaimer, the last one, and other assignments put other duties as assigned. They hated that, they hated that. But that, right? That, and then I said, as long as I'm not asking you to do something, because we had issues. If someone would say, if the job description said fax papers, and it says fax, but it doesn't say the copy. I kid you not. That's how lame they would get. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to put other duties as assigned because copying, faxing is, it's the same. Now, if it's something different where you're managing, that's completely different. Then that's, more pay and, more responsibilities. But I have stories, We can spend all day here with stories. But you guys get my drift on that. So job descriptions, very important. Don't care if you own a ice cream machine, ice cream store everybody needs a job description because if it comes back to haunt you later and they said, no, they never told me, I was never informed about this, you can say your job description said it, you were presented with this when you started a job, you signed on it that you understood. So we make sure that all those steps are done and are taken care of whenever an employee starts with the company. Then phase 3 is We go from now protecting the company to from now then working with the owners as to how to keep employees motivated, how to keep those employees with the company, staying with the company, because everything else is good. You know, we offer these benefits, we offer good pay, but what do we do to keep it a good place to work? How do we keep employees motivated? How do we keep them loving to come in? We work with the owners on that. If there's anything they want to do, hey, yeah, can we do a Christmas dinner? Oh, that would be wonderful. You do a Christmas dinner for everyone. If you want to do it, you know, ideas. We can brainstorm ideas. Oh, we want to start offering medical. Now, you know, we're making good money. We can. How much do we have this budget to contribute? Would this be enough for us to offer medical? Because, you know, medical insurance is so expensive, and employees look for that. So we work with each, and again, it depends on where you are. If you're a small company just starting out, you may not have the funds. It may be a mid-size, 100 employees, 50 employees, where you're able to do that. So we can work with you on setting those areas up as well. The areas we focus on: performance management. If you want to set up a performance management system or program, you guys are familiar with that performance, where you, because you have 50, 40 employees, and you want to make sure that if you're offering bonuses or if you're offering extra money for good work, you want to make sure that you are treating everybody the same way. You want to make sure that everybody, if you have 5 customer service agents, you want to make sure that you are rating them the same. Not because this one, they're using the same system, you rate them on how is their customer service, are they answering calls on time. Everybody's rated the same way. So then based on that, then it determines if they get a good bonus, if they get any bonuses, if they get a pay increase, if whatever the employer wants, we can set it up that way. Company culture, again, it talks about what you offer, how management treats employees. The culture of an organization starts with the owner. If the owner comes in, cursing and upset everybody's gonna be upset. If there's no camaraderie, there's no teamwork, there's not gonna be, if it doesn't come from the top. So what type of company culture do you want to set up for the organization? And it's very, very important nowadays to have that set up and let employees coming in see that culture. And of course it has to be you want it to be positive. I've worked with clients where as soon as I walk in, you can sense because they open the door and they just open the door for you and walk away. You know immediately. It's not that you have, like here, I come in, hi, how are you doing? And you can feel the difference. You know that there's a respect for, amongst employees. So we work on that. We even work on companies that they may have a bad culture and they want to fix it. So they come to us, how do we fix it? How can I fix this environment? It may take getting rid of certain employees. We have this employee, she comes in all the time, in a bad mood. And do you think if she's a problem or he's a problem? But do you think if we get rid of that problem, would it solve the problem? So it may take that. So we give, again, in consultation with the owner, talking it out, finding out, even sometimes having surveys with the employees and say, why aren't you happy? Asking questions. You find out things that you didn't even know. Because sometimes we're back in the office and sometimes employees don't tell managers exactly what's going on. So through a survey or me talking to the employees directly, I find, oh, you know what? Did you know that this manager does this in front of the employees and calls them this? And you're like, no, I didn't know. You find out a lot of things that way. So that's what we're talking about, company culture. Manager training, very important. Sexual harassment training. I substitute teach every now and then, and it's amazing. I'm in the class, I put my HR hat on when I'm in the class, and the things those kids say in the classroom, and I'm like, oh my God, they would be fired if they, I'm like, how can they get away with this? But they just talk. And if depending on the company that you work for, it's more open. If you work like in a mechanic shop, you hear it more. You work for Conoco, people know a little bit better than not to just scream out stuff, but you'll be hearing of it and stuff, and and talking about this person and all. It's very, very important that every company, no matter the size, have sexual harassment training, because again, that protects the company. from lawsuits or someone going to the Texas Workforce Commission and saying someone so is harassing me, and the first thing they're going to ask you, the first thing Texas Workforce Commission is going to ask you is, where's the HR manager? What was done about it? And I'm telling you this because it always happened to me. They'll say, well, we got a complaint about this person. Who's the HR manager? Oh, that's me. Okay, what did you do about it? And you say, well, then they want to conduct an investigation and you don't want that. Okay? Compensation strategy. We talked about it again. Everybody has their own salary histories and will tell you that they're getting paid this amount, and that amount. We provide compensation strategies for position, depending on the position, from cashiers all the way up to vice president, president. We can provide information on the right compensation based on the industry, based on the location, and based on the type of position that you're hiring for. Okay? And again, employee relations. There's always issues where there's people, there's problem. Where there's employee, there's problem. It doesn't matter if it's 2 employees, less problem, right? But there's always. I worked at a mortgage company for like 4 weeks, and there were 5 people. And you would have thought, I was like, what is going on? It was crazy. 5 people, and it was, crazy. So it doesn't matter whenever you have people, you're gonna have problems. So you should always have a written document saying, this is what we do, this is how we handle it, and that comes through the employee handbook. And that's where we'll be very clear. We ask the owner, what do you want included in there? What about cell phones? The cell phone is a big thing. People are always on the cell phone. Do you want to have a policy on cell phones? That no cell phones while they're in, washing cars. Everything we put in there. So if there's an issue and you have to talk about it, and if it continues to happen, then you know that you have done all that you can. And if it gets to where you have to terminate that employee, at least you have done everything by the law before you take that step. Okay. Then phase 4 is just ongoing improvement, and that's at the end of the year. Meet with the client again, ask questions. Hey, how is everything going? Any areas that we need to work on? Oh yeah, we need to see if we need to update the employee handbook. Do we need to add anything to the employee handbook? Performance management, do you want to do anything about it? Are you paying out any bonuses? How are you paying out the bonuses? Is everybody getting it? Why are these getting it? Why are those getting it? Oh, okay, so we can explain it. So those things at the end of the year that we may want to work on. So it's never, in HR is never, I would say it's never yes, or there's always, it depends. Because there's always, when someone asks a question, there's always something, that there's a reason why they're asking it. So you can't say yes or no because she said yes. No, not necessarily. Let me hear more. So make sure that we have everything in place because it's an ongoing thing, year after year. It doesn't stop. So that's the services that we offer on the HR side. What we do, and as I mentioned earlier, there's also the compensation and the benefits side of it. As part of our services and in conjunction with Forrest, here we, once companies are ready to offer medical benefits and ancillary benefits such as such as dental, vision, life insurance, short-term disability, and all, that's where we come in as well. We provide consultation on what plans will work best for the company based on the budget that they have. We provide choices through Blue Cross Blue Shield, Humana, Aetna, United. So if you're thinking about doing that, if you want assistance in that area, we're able to do that as well for you guys. And that's our services in a nutshell. You guys have any questions?
So do y'all have all the sexual harassment videos that they need to watch and all that too?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, typically, if you're doing it the first time, it's recommended that you do a face-to-face because if they have questions, based on you want to do that. Once you've had it that first time, then after that you can have video, have them do a video. New hires, you can have them ready to do a video, and the day that they start, you want them to I think the first week, let's say not the first day, but the first week of employment,
Okay.
they go through the sexual harassment video or any other videos that you want them to
Is that something you would go out on site and conduct the face-to-face? Is that something?
No, I would go to the location.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll go to the location and do the sexual harassment presentation. Yeah, and then if there's some clients that want face to face all the time because they want the questions asked and all that. Because sometimes videos, they sit there and yeah, but they're not really paying attention to it.
Mhm.
So some companies are like, no, I want that, so you can see, they're paying attention and they can't say, oh, the video shut off or, people come up with so many things. But you have that person there. But if it's a company like they say, well, you just do the video after they do the first one in face to face, and then after that video, then and the way we set it up is that they have to do the video, and there's programs where they have to do it and then they get a reminder, and then if they don't take it, the manager gets an email to say, hey, Joanna hasn't taken it, so you can go and say, hey, what's going on? So they can't get away from that, even if they just turn it on, but at least you've met your part of the deal, and it can't fall out on you.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So if you could, several of the folks in here are just now getting to a place where they're expanding into employees.
Mhm.
If they had a hot list of the top 5 things that they must not miss as a business owner, what would those hot 5 things be?
As
And they're starting to have employees and they're going to be hiring. What is that hot list of
Hot
at least
list.
5? What would you say?
they should have an employee handbook.
An employee handbook, okay.
They should have the job description of the positions, all positions that they should do a background check.
Mhm.
And I would say 5, I would say 4.
Okay.
Do a background check and make sure that before they start, all documents are signed. Do not let them start and they haven't signed all the documents that they need to sign. Because once they start, then they don't have to sign.
Oh.
Yeah, you can't force someone to sign a document. So like the job description, make sure that when you give them a job description and they have accepted the job, there's a portion that says, I understand the responsibility, and they sign off on it. Because the employee handbook, the same way, they read it, they sign off on it. Because they're already working a year and you give it to them, they look at it, they don't have to sign. They're going to say, oh, I'll take it to my lawyer. But you can't force anybody to sign. You can then put on there, it was given to him but refused to sign, but you want them to sign because then they can't say.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to, you don't have to be there watching them while they read it, but that protects you from anything. So make sure that they sign. I'm telling you this as my experience working with,
So that's for new employees, new hires. If they're already existing employees, you can't make
you
them
can't
sign
force it.
anything.
But what you can do is, okay, let's say for example you don't have an employee handbook now, or there's anything that you want them to sign off on right now. Okay, you send out an email.
Mm-hmm.
Send out an email to everyone and say, yeah, this is our new employee handbook, blah blah blah, da, 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 Please sign the last page that acknowledging that you've received and understand. You might get, let's say you have 10 employees, you might get 5 back. Send a second reminder to those that haven't sent it. Then send a third reminder. If they haven't sent it, that's okay. Now you've sent it 3 times. And make sure that the attachment is there. That's your way to say, since I can't force them, but at least it shows. Another thing that you can do is set up a meeting. So, oh yeah, we're going to have a meeting to talk about whatever. And during that meeting, make sure you have a sign-in sheet. Yeah. And say, hey, and by the way, let's talk about the employee handbook. And you talk about the main things that you want, and that's where you plug it in.
Okay.
Those are with, and then you use that list. But so make sure, don't even tell them that you're gonna talk about the employee handbook. Just say you're gonna talk about, you're just gonna get together or whatever, and they have to sign.
Okay.
Make sure that everybody's in their signs. And then you talk about the employee handbook. And then once the meeting is over, he said, thank you so much for attending the meeting, blah, blah, blah. Because, where we discussed the parking lot the employee handbook. you have to be creative because so then later on if they come back and say, hey, no, here's the email, we talked about this, and make sure you copy everybody that was in the meeting, even if they're worrying to put everybody on there, and kind of just summarize it. That alone there protects you. And it shows that you did.
The only thing we used to do is a sign-in sheet, like you said, of every meeting, and you could just throw things in there. But reorg is a good time to do. It could be any little tiny restructure, and you could do new job descriptions. That's what we always work for.
Right.
But you hit on one thing, and you said it first, and that would be my employee handbook for insurance. I'm in commercial insurance now. EPLI, Employment Practices Liability, they want you to have an employee handbook. A lot of times they'll ask for it. Big account, they'll ask for it when they go on inspection and things. So that's a big deal, the employee handbook. For EPLI is a line of insurance they want it for, work comp sometimes. Sometimes for, there's another accident plan that they'll want, make sure you got some procedures.
Again, it's liability because, for example, I don't know if you're aware that in Texas, I can't remember, I have to, so much to remember, that you have to let the employee know that you offer workman's compensation, and they have 5 days from the time you tell them that you offer workman's compensation, they can decline. By law, you're supposed to do that. Most companies don't know that.
It's a size thing, though, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. That's why since I don't know how many.
It's a certain amount of employees you have to start talking about it. Small ones, a lot of them they don't. If they have work comp, like you guys that have work comp over there, you wouldn't even tell. A lot of employers won't even tell them.
And they're supposed to. And they're supposed to, because I remember we were with, I think it was Travelers. And they asked me, did you inform the employees? And they wanted to see the email where I had sent saying by law effective, because I think it started like in 2010, 2012, something like that. And they wanted to know that we informed the employees about it. So it's new regulations and laws that come up all the time. There's a
lot of laws around that. Get a certain size, and if they're in network or out of network, if they're in network, they have to sign it.
Yeah.
The employee has to sign it. So, but there's out of network policies too. So.
Right.
Well, let's talk about what if someone doesn't work out. Are there some guidelines that we absolutely as business owners have to follow in order to cover our bases if we need to let someone go? What if it's just not a right fit? I mean, how do you document that?
Okay, Texas is an at-will state, so you can fire someone for any reason. Now, you can come in today and say, you know what? Well, you can say to yourself, I don't like her top. Hey, you're fired. Today's your last day. You cannot fire someone for race, sex, national origin, and there's a list of it, which I'm sure you guys have all seen the list. So yes, you can terminate an employee at any time. You just want to be careful why you are letting them go.
And that doesn't protect your unemployment account either.
No, because if you don't have a reason, that's when it probably will kick in. But let's say, for example,
what are some steps they should follow? Because there's a catch-22. We're paying them or we're paying unemployment, one way or the other. Right. So how does that work?
So let's say you have a problem employee. Let's say this employee is arriving late all the time, and this is where in the employee handbook we set up, based on what the employer wants to do, we set up standards. First is a conversation, because the person might be driving from afar, so you want to be as empathetic, because you never know what the person is going through. You don't want to be you're always late. Find out what's going on, have a conversation. And say, hey, I've seen you come in late 3-4 times. Is there anything wrong? Is there anything we can do to help you? And you just have that conversation the first time. It happens the second time, and you document it. Document. That's anybody that knows me that said my middle name is Document. Document. Even if it happened 2 years ago, document, because it may come back to haunt you. The second time. Again, depending on what the owner decides, because some owners say verbal, written, suspension, termination. Some say verbal, written, termination. So depending on what you decide, then that covers you. That doesn't necessarily mean that even if you took those steps, that they go to Texas Workforce Commission, they're not going to get unemployment. Because I've done it where we did all these steps, but they were late all the time, and they still got unemployment. But let's say, for example, you caught someone stealing money. That's automatic termination. You're not going to wait. Then I haven't seen the ones that I took care of, who stole or did anything where they, falsified time, they got unemployment. But that's where the employer sets the parameters, what they want to do. Again, you can fire someone on the spot. You don't have to feel like I have to go through the steps. There are certain things drugs. If someone is doing drugs, if someone is fighting, if someone is cussing somebody out, you can decide at that moment to fire that person. But you can't say, say it out, because the burden is on the person to say, oh, they fired me because I'm black, or they fired me because I'm a woman. But if you say, you know what, there are too many, and I had a manager say that, you know what, we need to hire you, because everybody was in their 50s. We need to hire younger people. But he said it, he wasn't going to fire anyone. He just said we need to hire younger people. Well, guess what? He had to lay people off. That person remembered what he said at that meeting. He fired me because I'm old. And that's not, based on the conversation, that's not what he meant. So make sure that you're not doing it for a raise, because the person was pregnant, for whatever it is. But you can fire someone at any time without, you being sent to court because you fired that person on the spot.
Can you fight? Is there like a court for unemployment? Oh, do you
Yeah.
have hearings?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah, they have hearings.
Texas.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even sometimes the EEOC gets involved. So you, depending on what they say, or what if, and that's where again documenting and having everything written down. Because if you have everything written down, you can send it to them and say, yeah, this is what. I fired him. Yeah, no, it wasn't because he was whatever. Let me send you, and you send all the documentation to them, and then that's where it ends. They'll thank you very much, and then they reply to them and say, hey, you were late 8 times. They told you about it. Yes, you were the only green person there, but you were the only one that was late 10 times. Based on, because you can send them like all my other employees that arrived on time. One had 1 or 2. He was talked to. Let's say you had one that had 3. You show that you also spoke to that person just like you did with him. You were following the same process that you were with the others. But
So it sounds like it all starts with that employee handbook and expectations.
Exactly. The employee handbook, important, very, very important. The first thing most, especially small companies, tell me, we're like a family. Oh, we don't need a handbook. Even if it's your best friend, I'm telling you out of experience, have a handbook. Even if it's a 2-pager, even if it's a 3-pager, but have a handbook and have a job description.
What are some handful of topics that you normally like to see in a handbook that cover different things?
In the handbook?
Mm-hmm. What kind of things do you like to see covered in there?
Well, you definitely have to have in there that you're an employer at will, that they can leave, they can quit at any time, and you could fire them at any time. You want privacy protection. Depending on what business you have, you might have intellectual property information that they can take with them and give to another employer. You want to make sure that you have in there that they cannot take any of that information. You want clarity on vacation, clarity excuse me, on time off. Sick, if you offer sick time, if you offer vacation time, you want to make sure you have information on cell phone usage. You want to make sure you have information on sexual harassment and what you would do if you get complaints about sexual harassment or any type of harassment. That it shows that you take it seriously. Have a step-by-step process of how you would handle disciplinary actions that you want in there. If smoking, drinking, what happens if someone comes in impaired, either drugs, drinking, or it could be medication. How you would handle that. Is it immediate termination? Is it where you give them an opportunity to go get counseling and then it can come back? You want to have those out in there. And it's also important to put in there the benefits that you offer. You don't want to put things that say no, you can't do this, you can't do this. You want things that also say we are a company that welcomes. If you have paternity leave, maternity leave, you want to put all that good stuff in there, so they can see all the good things that your company offers, or good benefits your company offers as well.
When you said earlier about document everything, do they have to sign that they've seen it, or just you write down that you spoke with them?
Like if you had a verbal meeting.
Yeah.
Not the verbal.
Okay.
When you do the if you're gonna do like suspension and the termination, you want it to sign.
Okay.
Of course, they're probably not gonna want to sign termination,
Yeah.
but the suspensions sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Okay.
But those two you want it for sure, and always have another person in the room. If you are a male talking to a female, have another female in the room. And vice versa. If you have someone that's gay, you want opposite sex, because we've had where I was in one where I was like, "Don't touch me," Everybody was all saying, "Yeah." And the guy, and when we opened the door, the guy, there was like distance, but he was trying to set the person up. No, it's sad, but that's the world we live in right now. We had one where there was two men, it was two of them, and the guy said, "Yeah, you hit me." When I walked out, "You hit me," and then we were like, and the guy's like, "I didn't even touch you." He's like, "Yes, you did. You hit me here," and all that. Because he fired. Yeah, he was firing. Yeah. Yeah, that was in Virginia. When I worked in Virginia, the VP went to fire the director of sales, and then when they walked, it was funny because we were all like sitting, and all of a sudden he came out like, "Yeah, you hit me." We were like, because we didn't know the way, we just thought it was a meeting, and we're like, "What's going on?" He's like, "I said, I didn't touch you. Yeah, you hit me here. I'm gonna sue you," and then walked out. So. Yeah, like it says stories, but those are very good questions. Yeah, employee handbook, job descriptions, have those ready. Make sure you're detailed on what it is that they will be doing. You don't want to overdo it because you have, let's say for example, receptionist answers phone calls, makes copies, faxes, orders lunch. Then you don't want to have on there manages a group of 3 employees then that's more high level, so you don't want to put all that in there. If you're going to give her that job, then perhaps she's the office manager, and then you can put that, because now it's more realistic with the position. You won't have issues later on. But employee handbook, job descriptions, those are 2 really important, and make sure they sign before they start.
Do you recommend annual reviews?
I recommend. Okay, that's. When you say annual reviews, like to determine bonuses, or I recommend quarterly reviews.
Ooh.
Not wait a year.
Okay. Why?
Because the person this is February now. The person did something today. Let's say they were rude to a customer. Why do you want to wait till December to say, "Oh yeah, back in February you were rude"? They're gonna be like, "What are you talking about?" If you do it per quarter or every 3 months, and say, "Hey, by the way, last month you had a customer. It'll be easier for her to remember.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Yes, I did do it." And then you have your notes, because you don't know how many things happen. And again, and back in March, they'll be like, "I didn't do that. I don't remember that. Prove it to." It becomes, and then they start getting they're resentful. But if you do it then and you have the information documented, customer called on February 11th, and you were really rude, you said this. And again, remember, always be, when you're giving feedback, don't be too general. "Oh yeah, you were rude to the customer." Okay, that's, tell me what it was. The customer asked you a question, you interrupted her 3-4 times. When she asked you this, you said, "Well," use examples, because everybody interprets things the way, if you give facts, or examples or anecdotes, that's what you have to do. But yeah, the reviews. Then if you want to do at the end of the year where you're going to pay bonuses, then based on those 3 quarters or 4 quarters that you had the conversation with them, then you can say, well, based on what transpired throughout the year, this is what your bonus will be based on the numbers or whatever. this is what your bonus are. You get a pay increase or you don't get a pay increase.
I've seen some larger companies do a temporary hiring, like what do you call it, probationary period before they make things more permanent. Do you recommend that? Is there a benefit to having this title of probationary? Is there some easy out you get when you call them a probationary?
I believe that certain positions, should be temp to perm. Usually, they hire the position. You don't have that flexibility because you usually hire someone that's leaving one job to go to the other job, and they're not going to leave their job and not have insurance and all that. So, but usually you find more people like for cashier positions, for administrative assistant. So in those positions, I would say yes, it's good to have temp to hire roles.
But you mean with a staffing company?
No. You don't have to do it with a staffing company. You can do it yourself.
Well, you just gotta be
Probationary,
careful about
not-
benefits. If you offer benefits and then you don't offer them to those employees, that can be.
No, but if you in the probation, in your employee handbook, that's where you have them there. We hire employees. Certain employees may be hired on a temp to perm basis. These employees, while on temp to perm status for 90 days, are not eligible for benefits. That you put that in the employee handbook.
And then it covers you for
And then it covers you
discrimination.
for yes, exactly. So then if after, let's say we have,
Sorry.
it's fine. If it's, let's say 90 day probation, because you can set up for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. After the 60 days, I don't even want to wait another 30 days. You can let them go. You don't owe them anything as far as benefits because it's clearly in the employee handbook, and you have it set up in your company that you do not pay benefits to temp to hire employees. You set it as employer. You set it up. You can set it up as where it's only full-time employees. If you want to pay the temp to hire benefits, you can do that. That's up to you. But it's not something that you are required to do. The only thing, if you're going to offer benefits, medical benefits, the person has to be working at least 30 hours or more.
Right.
Anything outside of that, if you want to do it, then that's something that you add to it. So you're not penalized if you don't do it.
Just an interesting kind of opportunity for small business owners not to get bound into a bad relationship that's
Right,
not going to work
exactly.
out in the long run or something.
But then you run the risk of, if you do 90 days, the person may leave because they found a full-time job somewhere else. So there's a catch to it because you may lose the person because they want insurance, or you might have someone that you want that is working full-time, right, somewhere, and they don't want to leave because, I have to wait 90 days to get insurance. But that's where, again, you as an employer, you can say, okay, I make an exception. I want to start her immediately full-time. But you have that flexibility as the owner to do that if you find that particular employee. You just say, there might be times when we have positions that you start out on a 90-day probationary period. But you decide that. You just have to make sure that you're not, in doing so, you're not doing it only with a certain group of people.
Sure.
You want to make sure that you're treating everybody. And if there's an exception, just write it down and say why you're making that exception. The economy is really bad, and I wouldn't get this employee if I didn't start her right away. And that covers you. Everybody will understand that. But you just don't want to make something where only the green people have to do 90 days. Everybody else, can start right away. Just have to be careful with that.
More questions? Anybody? Burning HR questions. Now's your chance. Well, we've got her. Joanna, thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing your time and expertise with us today.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, I left you my card. If you have any questions after that, just give me a call. It's never bothered for me. You can ask me any questions and I'll help you guys out.
Thank you.
Okay?
Did you put anything in here that will show you that video contact?
Okay.